Today we're talking about the Ohio train derailment and the missteps and all of the BS that's going on out there. And I just have to say, if you live in East Palestine, however we are pronouncing that locally, because I have not been there, but if you live there, you need to be extremely careful, and I highly recommend that you get out while the getting is good. And
Yeah.
I know that is said very easily on my end, but I want to just kind of explore some of this, especially for risk managers and safety managers, Matt. Like, this is protection 101.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's frightening, right? Because we all like I live there's a major rail line just down the street from where I live. So I can completely put myself into from the perspective of a resident of the East Palestine. They probably didn't even think about this, right? Oh, there's a train that runs through
Well,
the
did they
train.
not? Because they just, I heard reports, I need to look this up, but
Right.
supposedly there was a movie filmed there just 2 years ago about a train derailment.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay. Art imitates life, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just frightening to think that this is something that I think a lot of us we take for granted. We hear trains running by, especially those of us who live near an active track, and we kind of get used to it that nothing's going to go wrong. But a lot of work is required to make sure that everything is operating properly, and those vehicles they're so huge in weight and mass and force and power. If they have any little issue, it can be massive catastrophic destruction to any area around that, and that's on top of the issue that we're going to touch on. When the payload is a massive amount of hazard chemicals that could change the landscape of your area for decades,
Decades, centuries.
centuries. And so,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, no,
forever
centuries.
chemicals.
And so there's so many issues to revolve ourselves around here. I know there's been a lot of news.
Yeah.
I'm listening to the news. I'm listening to the mayor. I'm listening to anybody that wants to talk about this and the lack of our higher federal government from stepping in and actually being present in this area. There's just so much here. So let's break this down just a little bit. Um,
Okay.
First and foremost, the most recent thing I heard was by Pete Buttigieg, and he came out and he was in an interview and they were talking about this particular train derailment, and vinyl chloride is the main chemical that had spilled. And they asked him about this and the safety of the trains and everything, and he said he made a comment about, well, there's approximately 1,000 train derailments a year. And I find that comment, especially if you're a risk manager or safety manager, to be an atrocious statement. It
Yeah.
says so much. If you are in charge of work comp and you just go, oh yeah, we have 1,000 injuries a year. Oh well, we are your maintenance and operations director. Oh yeah, we have 1,000 accidents a year. Or you
Right.
oversee the fleet. Oh yeah, we have 1,000 accidents a year. What are you doing about it? And that's that incompetence and complacency for every person that's there. We always teach fault versus responsibility.
Right.
Regardless of the fault, you got to take responsibility. You cannot nonchalantly just go, oh yeah, there's 1,000 train derailments a year. Well, what are you doing about it? Why are those train derailments occurring in the first place? Are we looking into this? And what are we
Right.
doing to stop it? I mean, honestly, Matt, they need to put me in charge of Secretary of Transportation, and then I need to become president. And I may just run. I mean, this could be the
Yeah.
beginning of me running for president, honestly.
Do it.
Um, this this is sad, and it speaks volumes about where their head is at in regard to safety. And as
Yeah.
the Department of Transportation Secretary, look at all the things that are under that control and what is on the road. And statements like that just don't fly. They don't
Yeah.
fly with me. if you work for my company and you came in and just, oh, well, we got another thing coming, you know?
Right.
And so that's the first. The second piece to that is that it's unfathomable to me that there's not a manifest of chemicals. We know that
Yes.
chemicals are highly regulated. You have to have cradle to grave knowledge of the chemicals so you know where they're going, you know who's hauling them, you know what cars they're in, you know when they're wasted, how much, where it's shipped, where it's wasted, who incinerates it, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And to sit here and tell people that they have no idea what's on that train for days while that seeps into the ground and does everything else. So that's the first part. That is blatant BS. It's a lie, and they know. And the you know, number one, your Department of Toxic Substances knows, hazardous waste knows, all that knows. So don't feed me a line of BS. The second thing is you dump vinyl chloride by the thousands of gallons onto the soil, and you decide that you want to burn it. Well, Matt, we live in California.
Yes.
We're outlawing gas-powered vehicles. We outlawed gas-powered lawnmowers and weed eaters and leaf blowers. And we have clients in sensitive areas like San Francisco, and you can't even pour baking soda down the drain, right? You can't do nothing. And now you're telling me that you can burn. I mean, they're trying to outlaw charcoal grills here, right?
Right.
I mean, it's like, and you're going to burn one of the most toxic substances known to man and create a plume of smoke that travels across God knows how far.
Right.
And affects how many people. You want to outlaw gas stoves because they create asthma, yet you just burn one of the most toxic substances. So if you are a resident in this area and you've been affected, you need to get out. And we can talk about testing in a minute. But here's the next thing. That stuff seeps in the ground, and they're doing, Norfolk Southern's doing a bunch of testing of the water, and they're saying, oh, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Well,
right now it's fine.
Yeah. This is a whole nother thing. And, you know, we support school districts and cities and counties up and down the state. And I can tell you, over the course of my time in this career, how many school districts, I can't even tell you how many school districts, where the EPA, other local agencies want to come in and they want to monitor the underground plumes. And these underground plumes are basically where toxic substances have leached into the ground, and they travel down into the ground and they enter a water source, and that whole plume shifts through time. It travels based on what? Gravity, right?
Right.
So these substances float through underground. And so they put in these monitoring wells, and they come out and they monitor this stuff. And things that happened 20 and 30 years ago are being monitored for today. And so, you know, your water's fine today because that plume hasn't moved that far, hasn't quite permeated. I mean, you think about a potted plant that you have, and you pour water there, and you watch like how long it takes the water to go all the way down, right?
Right.
So now you have a toxic substance doing the same thing. It's got to hit the water source, then it's got to be transported through to water delivery, and then water delivery shoots it out to the pipes. And so, once that is actually running for a while, you're going to see those chemicals leach in. And that was part of the rationale behind the burn. But what a mess that is. No containment devices, no ventilation extraction. I mean, we can't even frickin' do standpipe water testing without capturing the wet water that comes out of our fire sprinkler systems. So how do you burn a whole thing like that and have nothing to capture this? at the
Right.
source.
And I, just in case anybody hasn't been following this directly and
Yeah,
they're
go
not
ahead.
aware, when you burn vinyl chloride, what comes out is essentially the same gas that they used in World War I as
Phosphine.
a chemical weapon. Yeah, phosphine chloride, I believe.
Spell
It's
that for me, Matt.
phosphine, PHOSPHENE. And then I think it's chloride or something like that. I don't have it up in front of me. But guys, it's mustard gas. Okay. You've seen it in movies. It scarred people. It was pure chlorine that was going into people's lungs and it was scarring them. They were using it as a weapon. And an active decision was made that, you know what? The lesser of the evils, I guess, because it's also explosive, what was that we should burn this to eliminate the explosive hazard? Well, what about, okay, this poisonous gas now that's going to be floating around in the area until it dissipates? I mean, okay, maybe even if you manage to remove all the people in the area, like there wasn't anybody who wasn't already there officially with a respirator and a SCBA or whatever, and they were protected. Um, what about all nature that's around there? Like animals don't do any better
Oh, well, the
with
fish are
this.
dying, the animals are dying,
Yeah,
they're dropping dead, and
yeah,
people are reporting, blisters,
uh-huh,
rashes, all kinds of things. You can't tell me that there is no residual effects to this
yeah,
burn.
yeah. It's a
Hundreds of
bad
people
look.
don't just show up in an area with all kinds of blisters, rashes, burns, irritations.
Right.
Just some of it can be psychosomatic, where, oh,
Of
that something
course.
bad happened. But you can physically see the reaction. And
Yeah.
therefore, you have to understand that there is some effect, even if partial. I mean, small doses, small parts per million can affect you in very weird ways. And especially
Right.
in our very sanitized communities now that we have, we're not exposed to things like we were. So that is
Right.
going to immediately create some issues for us. And I think completely irresponsible of leadership on many, many levels.
Yeah.
And that is evacuate the people, set up an emergency order, um, get people into hotels many, many, many hundreds of miles away, and
Yep.
make sure that they're safe. And you have to immediately, like, they should do a dig of the earth and they should take all that and get it out of there so that there's no possibility for that to seep any further down into the ground and into the water sources. Forget the testing. No one trusts the testing.
Right.
And we have, I mean, this is everywhere, conflicts of interest. If you have the train doing testing, well, that's fine. They can have third parties do it, but they should
Right.
really put that in the hands of the local government, and they should allow folks to come out and do the testing. And I would say, there again, like if you live in that community and you have some safety training and you have, um, what would I say, the proper PPE, maybe you take some
Right.
samples yourself and have it tested at labs
Yeah.
somewhere else. And that's, take a sample of your water and have it tested somewhere else. See if what they're telling you is true. Because, again, this just goes back to training and everything else. The EPA and their decision to burn without any extraction devices, this kind of thing, is very, very rudimentary, I would say.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of ways that this could be done much better, much safer. So I think when we start to look at our federal government, especially the hesitation around many of the the things that have been not so transparent, I
Yeah.
think people have a right to be suspicious of what is going on around this particular scenario. But here, I think, is where we need some better responses. We need to dig. We need to take that soil and properly dispose of it. People need to be given a choice as to what they want to do, and that is really to understand that you may not truly want to be in this community for a long time. And I'm sorry to the business owners that are there, and the community that is there for even saying this. But as you know, what Matt and I do, our top priority is always your safety. And I'd rather that you be alive than continue to make money and be suffering some serious health consequences. We saw that in the Salton Sea, right? They told people
Yeah.
to leave. People are like, I don't believe them. I've been eating the fish all this time, and now we got all these problems.
Yeah.
So here is the thing. I heard an interview recently where a coach was saying that parents didn't want to bring their kids to the practices because the practices were happening in the community. And he was saying, if you really want to support our community, bring your kids to the practice, shop at our local places, you know, play here, bank here, do here.
Right.
And I just think it's too early for that. And I get it, but you have to understand that if people are still reporting rashes and blisters and there's wildlife dying and farm animals
Yeah.
dying, and we don't really have the clearance, and I just saw an article like 3 hours ago that said, you know, the mayor actually drank some tap water now and this and that. So yeah,
Right.
he drank it. Well, let's see what the results are.
Yeah.
You
Let's see
know,
what happens. Yeah.
we don't
Yeah.
know if they tested that beforehand. You know, they've cleared some houses, things like that. But you can't ask people to bring their
Yeah.
children into a community like that when you have this mess going on. And again, it's not the fault of the people that live there. They didn't do anything to, you know,
Yeah.
deserve this or create this horrific accident. But leadership is, you know, you have to take responsibility. You can't ask people to come in there and
Yeah.
spend any time there when it's potentially unsafe. You
Yeah.
know?
It's tragic, Steve. And what really frightens me when I think about this is we've talked about how we're talking, these are forever chemicals. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to be around for a while. Even if the rashes and the blisters go away, there's still going to be some risks. There's going to be long-term health effects that are going to be always present there for a long, long time. And the fact of the matter is, they pretty much, this could literally kill that town. Like East Palestine could disappear from the map because people are going to have to move out, and because they won't be able to live there, or at least be certain that they're safe and healthy there. And as a result, think about that. What do most people do if they own a house and they want to move to someplace else? Let's say they have the means to do it, because obviously I know that some are going to, they also have to consider where they work and what, you know, what if they're moving away from their business that's right in town. But putting that aside, let's say you lift up your family and you move out of East Palestine because of this situation. Most people are mortgaged up to the hilt in their houses.
Yes.
And the key to buying a new house is to sell that old house and get out of that mortgage. But here's the thing, who's coming in
Nobody.
to buy that house?
Nobody.
Nobody
It's
is.
a total loss.
It's a total loss. So these people are ruined, and it's, and I'm thinking this is the kind of thing where I mean I'm not always 100% on board with like massive like government funded buyouts, you know, but this is kind of one of those things. You know what? You guys need to go in and save these people because yeah,
Well,
you know.
yeah, it's not even a government buyout. Norfolk Southern should do the right thing
True.
and relocate these individuals. They can buy up all the land and all the homes, and if it's safe, then they can sell it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's my thing. I mean, this is it's a big industry, too big to fail. You know, on that level, we continually bail out airlines and car companies and banks.
Yep.
Trains are going to be there too, even though they're making
Yep.
$1 billion
Yep.
in revenues and things like that. But This is one of those things. 1,000 derailments. You better get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
You better get to the bottom of it. And that's a lot of derailments.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
That it sounds like a lot. It makes me. It's the kind of number that makes me go like, why haven't I heard about this before? And obviously, you could reframe it as, oh, it's 1,000 derailments, but it's across, however many railroad miles, were traveled, over that course. And for all I know, maybe it's actually within an acceptable range. But when you just throw that number out there, it sounds insane. It's just like,
I
really, a
don't,
thousand,
I'm not sure that is an acceptable range based on what's being hauled,
right?
you know, and based on the potential destruction.
Yeah,
Um, it's a lot. So let's just cover some of these points here. I think that as a safety manager, risk manager, we got a lot of responsibility. The first is transparency,
yeah,
and that is if something like this happens on your watch, maybe on a smaller scale, you need to get your butt out of the chair and you need to get your butt down to the site and look at and handle. Number
yeah,
two, proper training, right? Proper documentation. Make sure that you have the proper training to handle these. We
yeah,
have the chemical emergency response book, which tells us upwind, downwind, how do we handle this? What do we do with these things? So many times, though, we see it over and over and over again. These government agencies, they enact all these laws and regulations, and they're not even trained on them. And here
yeah.
again, like you decided to do a burn and put all that crap in the air, well, that's a big problem for me. you
Yes,
know so that's another one. You better know what to do, and you better have the right people on the job. And so transparency, proper training, proper gear, PPE gear, proper documentation, manifest, all that kind of stuff. And then you really have to look out for the people. You have
yeah,
to look out for the people. If they don't have that stuff, they shouldn't be in those areas. And so you better have an emergency plan. We talked about this on emergency planning and continuity. You need to have a business continuity plan. How do you keep this whole thing going? These
yeah,
families are suffering from your problem. It's a reputational risk, and you need to deal with it. You've done environmental damage, you've done damage to the community, and you need to deal with it, right? You need to address it.
yes,
And so if it was so safe, then why are you not out there with your representatives immediately looking into it?
right,
Uh,
right.
Third thing is don't put people in harm's way, you know, until you're 100% absolute certain, then you don't ask people to go back in there. And you
Yes,
certainly don't tell kids and everything else to come in here.
yep.
And that's on you. What do you got to add to that? Anything?
Yeah. Fourth point that comes to me is if you are faced with a hard question about a specific disaster like this, don't try and sugarcoat it by saying it's a little thing. Oh, there are we do 1,000
Yeah,
derailments
Booty
in a year.
Judge.
No, yeah, yeah. No, what you need to be saying is, yes, this is serious. We're going to do what we need to take care of this area and these people, and we're going to fix this problem. That's the response. You don't go into like kind of minimize it like, no, 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 it's not a thing. No, don't say that. That's the wrong response. That's the wrong attitude to
Hmm.
take in these situations.
It really is. And it reminds me of, the asbestos concerns and things like that we saw at 9/11. Again, rush in, throw everybody in there, expose them. I get it. We've been attacked. We want to help. But there's a right
Right.
way to do it, and it doesn't take much longer to do it the right way, you
Yep.
know? And here you're supposed to be the expert in this and guiding people through it and keeping them safe, and you're exposing everyone to all kinds of crap that they don't need to be exposed to. I got to
Yep.
tell you, if my family lived there, if my daughter lived there, I'd be livid, be ripping some
Yeah.
heads off right now, you
Yep.
know? Um, and I feel like a lot of people just don't care about this community because of the demographics of the community. And it makes me sad. And I think you listen to Pete Buttigieg, and this whole thing's going on, and he's talking about white construction workers, too many white construction workers, and this and that. And you're just going like, what are you talking about? You know, you attack the racism, you attack the math is racist and all this. And we look at it and we go like, you can't have math is racist, no, don't teach math, and then we're going to put a bunch of construction workers out there that don't know math and build things. And we see that in Turkey.
Yeah.
46,000 people dead, probably due to lack of building standards, faulty buildings, and then on top of it, bribes and everything else that goes on in these communities when they want to build stuff. Corruption. And here we have it. You know, 46,000 people dead. And so, you know, here's this thing. We don't care about this community. So whatever. And we're not even going to go visit. And we're just going to be talking about racism when we have serious issue going on, an immediate, acute, serious issue going on. And we need to address that. Yeah, we need to address racism too. But math is not racist. We need to teach people math. And this could be part of the problem for the derailments. You know, can we calculate max capacity? Can we calculate travel speed and all these things? You know?
Yeah.
So I just think, hey, you got to get your head in the game, and you got to handle this properly. This one really irritates me. There's a lot that's been irritating me, man. And if anyone knows who stole my checks, then send them my way.
We don't want to get into that.
Send them my way. Send them my way.
There you go.
You know, it just is one of these things where it starts right there at the top in the transparency. I would trust nothing that these two agencies are telling me, because you're not transparent out of the gate. You're not if you're not transparent out of the gate, you know, it's like the husband that comes in and says, "Oh no, I didn't sleep with her." "Oh yeah, okay." And then you see, "Oh yeah, not only did you sleep with her, but the bank accounts are gone, the house is gone." You know, just one thing after another. So I think there's some lessons there. I kind of got off tangent, but it just irritates the hell out of me, man. It just really does. It really does. I don't know. I don't know what's going on around this, but we're seeing it. It's like, bring people in, throw them into a job, give them zero training, and just, you're deemed an expert. And and you're really not. And we can't continue on like that, because things are very complicated now. They're complex. It's not the old, hey, you know, we have leaded gasoline, and we spilled 3 cups on the ground, but you know, there's only 10 people in this town, and blah blah blah. No, I mean, now you have people living in very tight quarters. You have highly toxic chemicals, and you need experts. You know, and I know the whole expert thing has been worn out, but you need true experts, people that really understand the things that they're dealing with. So that being said, East Palestine, keep your head down, get out of town. Do not take your kids into that community for right now. I know it's harsh. I'm not saying don't ever go back. I know it's tough money-wise and things like that. But for your own safety, take a break and protect yourself, because we just don't know. You're going to you really need to install the wells to monitor the plumes. That needs to be done by the agencies. And that takes sometimes years to really get accurate determinations. So you could be drinking small trace amounts of this chemical, and you know, that's just not good. So I think protect yourself, take responsibility for yourself, and I will send good thoughts to the universe to make this right for you. There's something I can do for you, reach out to me, let us know, leave comments, do what you need to here, so that we can help out here. For some odd reason, Matt, I wasn't able to pop the chat up here this time.
Okay.
But, subscribe now. You can follow us. Don't forget to check us out on Udemy. Hey, we're getting a lot of folks checking out Udemy, which is great. Don't forget to check out our website as well and Dollar Training Club. And with that,
Yep.
we'll see you on the next Risk Control Show.